All right, guys, thanks for hopping on to this Sunday night session. Appreciate it. For those of you who got on, we had a little bit of a tech problem here, getting started just a little bit late. And so I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a disclaimer for those who see the video, who catch this video on our YouTube channel and, you know, listen to our messages on our streaming services. This is going to be a message in a series on becoming men, 12 things to be and teach your sons as men. 12 things that we need to be as men. It's a messages to challenge men on what we're supposed to be. It's also messages to help us understand men and what goes on in the heart of men. Tonight, I am going to talk about the three drives of men: provider, protector, and procreator. I'm using all P words, and I learned this core point from a woman. Her name is Allison Armstrong. She has a website called Understanding Men. And it was Allison that first taught me, or I understood years ago, that these three primary drives of men actually have a rank and a priority of importance in men's heart. It's a subconscious thing. It's probably not something that most men realize, but there's an order of importance in the life and in the heart of a man that these three primary drives take in our hardwiring. We didn't ask for them. We didn't get a vote on them. So we're going to talk about them tonight. And at certain points in this, if you're watching the video, it'll be toward the end. I'll save it toward the end. If you're driving in a car, if you're, with kids and you're sitting around your house, you've got kids around, you may want to listen to it first, because when we start talking about the sex drive of men and how it works and how to be godly with it and the reality of it, I'm going to talk about it and be open and honest and real, be holy with it and sacred with it, but be honest and reality about it. And I love the fact that we have a setting right now where I can do that with adults who will be mature and holy and how they approach it. So I'm going to read a few scriptures that I have read as I start these messages. 2 Timothy, I'm just going to read them to you. If you want to turn there, you can, but I think I can read them to you and you can pick it up. 2 Timothy 2, verse 2 says, "These things that you have," this is Paul talking to Timothy, "these things you have heard from me in front of many witnesses," he said, "entrust these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." We have a desperate need for men to teach men how to be men. We're in a world today where we have no models. We have no role models. We have no models of how to be men, what it is to be men, how to function as men. Men don't understand who they are and what they're supposed to be, much less women understanding men, who they are and what they're supposed to be. And we live in a world, and I went into this in the first message in this series, where men and masculinity are under great attack in so many ways around us. In the first couple of messages, I've hit 6 areas. The first one, I hit spiritual areas of things we're supposed to be as men. Be a true Christian, be a real Christian, be a believer, be a servant, someone who finds your place of service and your purpose, and you function in your purpose and your calling. Then I talked about be a finisher, that you want to finish well. And when you die, you be the one talking to your sons and not them talking to you. You be someone who finishes the race. Then I talked about family in the second message and talked about being a son, being a husband, and being a father. So we're halfway through this, and now we're going to talk about a big topic. This is a topic that is something that influences men in a way that it's hard for men to ever verbally explain or describe how these things impact them as men. They know they feel them. We know we feel the burden and the pressure and the weight. We feel these things on us, but it's very hard for us to verbalize and grasp these realities. And so tonight I'm going to do my best to talk about these things and to give you a heads up on the topic. These are ranked, okay? Allison Armstrong, as I mentioned a while ago, taught me this, and she said the number one drive in a man is procreator, to be a sex drive. I'll explain to you why in just a minute. Is that drive for procreation. The second rank on his list, intuitively, innately in his being, is protector. The third one of these drives on his list is provider. Now, if women were to rank those, they would rank those the opposite. They would put provider at the top because we're wired different. One day I'll talk about women and how they're wired and how they function and their emotional needs and all the way God created us totally different. But men rank them different, because if we don't have anything talking about children, if we don't have anything to protect, the protector instinct, is not as necessary. And then if we haven't protected them, we don't have anything to provide for. If they're not alive, if they're not protected well, there's nothing to provide for. So in a man's psyche, it's be a procreator. That sex drive is driving him strongly, and he doesn't always understand why. He just knows he feels it. Then it's protect what you created and made. Then it's provide for what you created and made, because if you don't have anything to provide for, and there's nothing to protect, you haven't protected it, then it's not necessary. So it kind of works in that order. And so I'm going to teach through these in reverse order. I'm going to talk about providing, then I'm going to talk about the protector. And it's impossible to cover all of these in one message, but I'm going to hit some really big highlights in the heart of a man that I think will be beneficial to women. So let's dive in. I want to talk about providing first and spend a few minutes on each one of these. The third important drive, I'm going to do it like a Dave Letterman reverse top 10, but only 3, is providing. 1 Timothy 5:8 says this: if a man doesn't provide for the members of his own family, he's worse than an infidel. If a man doesn't provide for the member of his own family, I'm going to use our English word, he's worse than an unbeliever. Now, that is seen most of the time, everybody watch me, that is seen most of the time as a command, as something that is a command to men. You need to do this, you need to provide for your family. And that's true. There's a call of God. It's built in the DNA of men. But what I want you to understand as I teach through this tonight, and I look at the psychology behind that in men, is this: it's also a descriptive of how men feel. I'm going to say that again. This is also a huge descriptive of how men feel. When men are unable, I want to get you, ladies particularly, but men too, I want to get you into the heart of men tonight. I want to get you into the mind of men. I don't want you to just see it as just physical. I want to get you into the psyche of a man, because with men, we're not as verbal. Usually men are not as relational. They're not as talkative. And so it's hard for them to verbalize what they're feeling on the inside. Okay, women are much more verbal. So I want to help men understand with words what they're feeling, but I want to help women understand how men feel, or the wiring that's inside of men. This verse, that if a man can't provide for his own family or doesn't provide for his own family, he's worse than an unbeliever, describes, in my mind, how men feel. When we can't provide, when we're unable to produce or provide or take care of the people that we are responsible for, the way that makes us feel is hard to put into words. It's a very difficult thing on our psyche. It's a very difficult thing on our soul, because the hardwiring to provide and the burden to provide is so heavy on us. And everybody watch this. Shawnee Feldhahn, it's been quite a few years since I read it, but in her book, Understanding the Inner World of Men, the book's called For Women Only. And she makes the point in one of her chapters that she calls this burden to provide a burden. It's a burden that weighs on men, and she refers to it as the loneliest burden. She interviewed thousands of men. She calls it the loneliest burden, the lonely burden, that a man feels alone and it weighs on him and he can never get rid of it. It never goes away. It's a burden that never leaves. It's a burden that he deals with in isolation and loneliness, and it weighs him down all the time. And it's impossible, because women aren't wired this way, for women to understand how heavy and deep the burden to provide is. She interviewed thousands of people, thousands of men, and a huge proportion of them said with great mental certainty, this is my job. It's my job, regardless of whether the wife works or not. This is my job, and it's my responsibility, period, to take care of my family, because of the hardwiring of men. Years ago, the guy who wrote the Mars and Venus book, I can't think of his name right now. I think it's Gray, John Gray, maybe. He taught us that men have 2 gas tanks, whereas women only have 1, emotional gas tanks. Women have a connective gas tank, and it's the dominant thing in their life. They want relationship, they want connection. They're constantly wanting to be connected, relating, relationship, and constantly wanting to be in tune. Men have 2 gas tanks. And so it's hard for women to understand that reality, but men have a relationship gas tank, and a accomplishment gas tank or a work gas tank. And so men will get the relationship gas tank filled up, and then we fill the work gas tank or the accomplishment success gas tank get empty, and we have to switch over to that gas tank, and we get totally focused on doing something, on an activity or an accomplishment or a work that lets us go out and be successful in the world and accomplish something in the world. And it's just something that women have a hard time understanding, that dual gas tank, that this accomplishment gas tank is just as important as this relational gas tank in the mind of a man, because we feel this drive. It's a drive. It's not something we asked for. It's not something we voted for. And I'll talk about that a lot tonight, inside of us. In her survey with people, this is a quote from a wife, said, "I've always worked." This is a kind of a woman said, "But I've always worked." She's shocked at how much providing burdens him down. "I've always contributed to the family budget." And his response was this in her book: "You working is not relevant to my need to provide." I'm going to say that again. You working is not relevant to there's a burden, there's a need that weighs men down. Even if, this is a quote, "Even if women made enough money to support the family's lifestyle, it would make no difference to the burden he feels to provide." Even if the wife made plenty of money and he didn't even have to work, it would make no difference to this burden that he feels driven to provide. And I'll give a disclaimer. I know there are exceptions to what I'm going to talk about tonight. There are exceptions, but this is the general rule. This is true most of the time. In a survey, it said 80% said they still feel compulsion to provide even if their wife made enough for the family. And it didn't matter whether they were young or old, religious or non-religious, single or married. And pop culture teaches us that that's not true at all. They teach us that men are lazy bums on the couch with remote controls that just want to play video games or whatever. And that's not true. That's not who they are. Now, ladies, look at me. The only counter I can give you to this to help you understand the level of the providing need in the heart of men is it's how you feel about body image and body security and your body insecurity. The security or insecurity that you feel about your body and how your appearance and the awareness of your appearance, it's there every day. And when someone makes a comment about your body image or your body appearance, it hits you very deeply. I'm going to say something that's strong right off the bat. You criticizing him as a provider is like him criticizing you and your appearance. That's the equivalent. That's how I'm trying to help ladies understand. That's how deep the need to provide is. So when you criticize him as a provider, when you attack him as a provider, when you put him down as a provider, it's like him calling you a name about your appearance or criticizing your appearance or criticizing your body. It's the burden that ladies, you didn't vote for that. You didn't ask God to give you that. It just is in you, that awareness of appearance and beauty. That's how he is as a provider. So be cautious with that. Understand the depth of that. Understand the sensitivity of that. It never leaves. 71% of men surveyed says it's always or often on my mind, in the back of my mind. It's always there. Now I'm going to give you 6 keys, and these are just quick bullet points. I want to give you 6 keys to understand the heart of a man. What's going on in the emotion and mind of a man when it comes to providing. Okay. Number 1, providing is the core of his identity. It's his identity. Providing is like synonymous with being a man. It's that big. It's how he finds worth. It's how he feels powerful. And when he can't do it, and I've battled this, and I'll get into this just a minute, with my illness and my battle for many years with my illness, I went through years of depression because I just wasn't able to do anything. And that's the way it works. With men, they feel a weakness. There's a worthlessness that sets in when they're not able to be productive, when they're not able to produce, when they're not able to do anything. And I'm going to get into it now. When men go through a season, whether through illness, disability, or they get laid off and they can't find a job, when they go through seasons when they're unable to provide, they're unable to work, most men go into some form of a depression. They go into a level of depression because of this burden. Because of this pressure, they feel that part of being a man is being productive and producing. And so what happens is when they sink into a depression, it causes them to lose their sense of worth and their identity. For women, depression works totally differently, but for men, most of the time, the depression that we feel as men is connected to our ability to be productive in the world, our ability to function. And most of the time, not always, but most of the time, Getting men out of a depression is as simple as them finding a purpose and a place of usefulness and getting them moving again. Because when men are not able to be productive, are not able to move, produce, live, and productive. And I feel the Lord, this is the first time I've kind of felt the Spirit of the Lord. I'm going to pause for just a minute on this. When men can't feel productive, men don't feel like they're producing, and men don't feel like they're, because so much of we're not talkers, we're doers. And when we feel like we can't do the things that we really want to do and that are in our heart to do, we sink into a depression. And 90% of the help of men getting out of the depression is helping them find some place they can be productive, contribute, find something they can do, because it's at the core of our identity. A quote in the book said this: the ability to take care of those they feel responsible for lies at the core of men's sense of value and significance. The second one is this: first, it's a core to their identity. That's how deep it is. Okay, be sensitive with it, ladies. Second, providing is his way to say I love you. For a man, providing is love talk. It's straight on love talk. It's his way of letting you know he's worthy of you. It's his way of letting you know he loves you. It's his way of letting you know he would do anything for you. So when he spends long hours out on the job, and when he spends long hours doing what he's doing to produce and provide and care for, that's his central way. I'm going to say that again. That's his central core way of saying to you, I love you. So when he's out there working like a dog and all these long animals, and you're complaining because he's not home, it confuses him. Because when in his heart, he's saying, I love you in the most central core way to his being, and you're criticizing him for not being there. It's not that let me say it this way, it's not that he loves work more than you. That's not what it is. It's that he loves you. He loves his family, and he's doing what he's doing because he loves you and he loves his family. Providing is his central way of saying, I love you. And he's trying to show you that. So if I'm trying to get you to understand what's going on in his head and in his heart, he's trying to communicate to you the way guys do, that I love you. And yet sometimes she takes it as, you're not at home as much as I want you to be. And I'll hit on that in just a second again. The third thing is providing is part of his need to win and succeed. Every man needs their slice of the world where they go conquer it. That's just the way men are. We want an area of the world that is our area of challenge to go conquer and be successful and win. Side note, ladies, if you don't understand men want to win. Men need to be set up to win. So when he tries to do something romantic for you, or he tries to do a gesture for you, or he tries to do something for you, respond in a way that lets him know he won. Because if a man feels like he didn't win, he's going to stop. We're not going to waste our calories on something that doesn't work. That's just how God made us. So when we try to do something and we feel like it doesn't work, we're going to stop. So make sure if he does something that you like, praise him, tell him, let him know you liked that. Say something positive to him to reinforce what he did, because men want to win. And so when he is out there working, he is working to accomplish something and to conquer his slice of the world. That's part of his motive. He needs it. That's his gas tank. That's his other gas tank. The fourth thing is this: providing carries an ongoing risk of failure. Now, everybody watch this with me. Men are a lot more lonely than you realize they are internally. Men are a lot more insecure and have a lot more feelings of inadequacy than you think they do, ladies. Deep inside most guys, most of us, is there's a feeling of we're not going to measure up. We're not going to be strong enough. We're not going to produce enough. We're not going to provide enough. And there's this ongoing tension in us that we feel this pressure we have to produce, but we feel like we're never producing enough and we're never doing enough. And the number one area where we feel like we can never be enough or produce enough and we feel like we're failing is in the area of providing. That's what I said a while ago. We feel worse than an unbeliever because we feel like we're not doing enough to be enough, to accomplish enough in any area of our life. Most men don't need to be commanded about providing. They're driven internally by this feeling of failure. It's how they feel about themselves. 61%, everybody catch this stat, 61% said they feel unappreciated at work and at home. 61% also said they feel like they're at risk of being fired. So a man is walking around with this pressure to provide, and yet this fear that he's not providing enough, this feeling, and this fear that he's going to be fired or that something's going to happen at any minute. Ladies, look, I want to say something real directly. We're not as strong as you think we are. I know we want to portray strength. We want to demonstrate strength. But deep inside, there's this feeling that there's a fear that we're not going to be able to get it all done. And we always feel like that when something goes wrong, whether it's our fault or not, we could be totally innocent, but we feel like it's our fault and we take responsibility for that. For example, all of a sudden, when things aren't going as well in your lifestyle, he's not able to provide the lifestyle you're used to, and you have to adjust your lifestyle down. He feels like failure. When kids' birthdays come around, when Christmas comes around, and he's not able to buy them everything they want, and he doesn't have it in that moment to do everything they want to do, feels like a failure. Come on, can I have an amen, guys? I feel like I'm hitting something in our heart right here. Those of you that catch the video later, when he's not able to do those things for the kids and provide the lifestyle, when he struggles paying the mortgage or the car payment or medical bills or provide medical, it's a battle to provide medical needs. When he's not able to do everything that's expected of him, something in the core of his being feels like a failure. And it wrestles with him, and it goes deep inside of him. And I want to say this again: when you criticize him for not being a good enough provider, it's equivalent of him calling you fat and ugly. Say it a little bit more directly. For you to criticize him and tell him that he's not doing a good job as a provider and he's not giving you what you and he's not giving you enough, it's the equivalent of him attacking your body image. Ladies, be super. I want you to understand that. Maybe you've never heard anything like that before, but it's the truth. This is core to the identity of a man, just like your beauty is core to your identity. And when you attack that, I would tell men, and don't ever criticize her physical appearance. Don't ever do that. That's the most personal thing to her. Ladies, it's equivalent. Don't ever criticize who he is as a provider, because it destroys his soul and it attacks his soul. It's emotional torture. One man said it this way: it feels like my skin is being flayed off when I'm struggling financially. It feels like my skin is just being ripped off of me and it's tearing me apart. The fifth one is this: providers feel trapped. This is a very simple thing that men feel all the time. A wife will say, I want a new home, I want new clothes, I want more nice things. And then on the other hand, she'll say, you're working too much, I want you here, I want to spend more time with you. And the guy's pulling his hair out like, okay, you want more, you want a new home and you want nice things, but you also want me home to be with you. I said, I can't make money and be home at the same time. And men feel in this catch 22 where they're trapped. And women, if you can understand, it's not rejection. He's not rejecting you. He doesn't love work more than you. He loves you and he's doing this for you. You think he works because he's wanting, just always having fun out there? No, he's trying to do what he feels is his responsibility for the family, but he feels this trap where he can't please everything that you need. He's trying to make you happy, but he many times can't do it all. The last thing is this: that providing is not just earning for now. I think this is a biggie. Providing is not just earning for the now, providing is also for the future. And if you can understand this in the heart of men, men are almost like they're thinking about two incomes inside our head: one for now, for our family that we have now, and then one for the future when we retire. And they're always thinking, do I have enough? Do I have enough for now? And do I have enough for retirement? So as you're wanting to use the money and you're trying to make decisions to use the money, he's not just thinking, do we have enough for now? He's thinking, do we have enough for the long term rest of our life? And it amplifies, are we going to have enough to last? And it's not something that I don't think women are wired that way. So I want to say those briefly again. Okay, just the title of them. Providing is the core of his identity and how he finds worth. Providing is his way of saying centrally, I love you. Providing is part of his need to succeed. It carries a huge risk of failure, and he feels inadequate deep down, that he's not doing enough and he's failing. He feels trapped that he can't make money and spend time with you. And he feels this pressure to provide not just for the now, but the future. Now, I want to talk to the women for just a minute on this topic, and then I'm going to switch to protecting. Ladies, here's what, and I want to talk to young men for a minute too who may see this video. Ladies, here's what he needs from you. He needs three things. The number one thing he needs from you is gratitude. That's the number one thing men need, is they need gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation, and praise. Find reasons to praise him. Let him know you see him working and you're thankful for the things he does. Don't criticize him. That will, he'll internalize that and he'll take it personally in the most core area to his being. Give him gratitude. Give him praise. The second thing I want you to do, and I tried to help with this tonight, understand the burden. understand that his burden to provide is so deep to who he is as a man. It's lonely, it never leaves, and it is always weighing him down. It is constant. Understand it's there. So he doesn't need anything added on to that burden. He already knows it's a burden. He already feels, man, I feel the Lord on this. Don't don't add to the burden he already feels. He already feels it. God made us so that it's hardwired in us. It is so deeply hardwired in us, it's impossible for me to even articulate how deep this is ingrained in our being to need to do this. And when we don't feel, when we're unable to do it, for whatever reason in life, the job market, illness, whatever, when we're unable to do it, we already feel like crap. So don't add to that by telling us how terrible we are and how worthless we are and how we're not doing enough. We already know that. Come in underneath him and do this third thing. Help relieve the pressure. Let him know you believe in him. Tell him you believe in him. Let him know you're with him. Let him know you're going to help him. If you react with disappointment, he's going to internalize that disappointment. So come up underneath him and support him and let him know you believe in him, and we're going to get out of this, and you're going to help through a rough stretch, because it's that core to his identity. I want to talk to young men for just a minute. Young men, I want, and this is something to teach your sons when you have sons to grow up. I believe the young men need to recapture a vision for having families and being providers. This generation today, most young men waste their 20s being idiots, running around partying and playing games and being gamers and video games, doing all kinds of junk. And I want young men to recapture a vision that the minute you graduate high school, you begin to get a plan to become the provider of a future family. Young men, there's no greater gift you will give your future wife than to meet her need for security, than to become a provider that meets the need for security. And I'm all for women working. Women do whatever they want. That's not my point. It doesn't change any of this in the heart of a man. The greatest gift you will ever give to your future wife is that security of being someone who provides for your home. The deepest need in your future wife is that need for security. And young men need to get a plan. They need to begin developing a plan. They need to begin to think in different terms. You need to sacrifice early while the rest of the people are out running around playing. Go ahead and get a plan together for how you're going to provide for your family. Don't just ask, what do I want to do? Ask, how is this job going to provide for a family? Is this job going to pay well enough to provide for a family? And we need dads coming in to help them do this. Let me give you a couple of suggestions that I would recommend for young men who are growing up to focus on to become men who are providers for their family and to fulfill this role. One path is business. Obviously, a lot of successful people are in business for themselves. And if you're gifted that way, find someone to mentor you who's successful and find a business you like and do it. Another one is the trades. Sweaty jobs are big jobs these days. Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, air conditioning and heating and air guys, and all these kind of jobs, they're underappreciated and they're very successful money makers, and they need to be emphasized much more. And I want to say a word about college, okay? Do not, if you're a young man and all you parents who are raising kids, we have kids coming out of college these days with degrees in things that are not going to give them any jobs, and they're thousands of dollars in debt. If you're going to go to college, and I'm fine with whatever you do what God calls you to do, what you feel your purpose is doing. But if you're going to go to become a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or something that is going to produce a job, get after it, go to school. But if you're just going to go to college to get some degree in the liberal arts, or I don't want to name specific things, I don't want to offend anybody, but you're going to go get degrees in things that you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars, and that's not going to give you any kind of real job that provides for anything. So young men, when you graduate high school, begin to think not about partying, not about running around and hooking up with girls. Begin to think, recapture the vision for having a family, and come up with a plan, whatever it is, that you're headed on a path to produce a real job that'll provide, because your motive is love for your future wife. Think before you meet your wife, before you even know your kids' names, have a plan to say, I'm going to be a provider for my family. And we need to be teaching that to our kids. Dads, teach that to your young men, that they're responsible to provide, and get them motivated to become young men who provide. There's no greater need you'll meet in your wife than giving her the security of someone who provides provision. And there's nothing more rewarding to you as a man. And for all of the men out there who go through periods of time of illness or disability, or the job force working against you or whatever. I want you to know that I understand the dilemma that's there in your heart, having been through what I've been through, and the pain and the feeling and even the depression. Okay. And there are ways that God will give you supernatural grace and supernatural understanding and give you avenues where you become productive in ways that you weren't before, but He will still use you and make you great. Let's talk about protecting. We'll switch. Go to number 2. Okay. Protecting. The second dominant thing, second dominant drive in a man, ranked second, is to be the protector of the home. I'm going to go to Genesis 3, where Adam and Eve, tell you the quick story, and then I'll dive into being a protector. Provider is core to his being, so is protecting core to his being. We know the story in Genesis 3 that Adam and Eve are in the garden. Satan comes and tempts Eve. And the Bible says very clearly that when Satan was doing that, Adam was with her. That's a very interesting verse. Adam was with Eve when this was all going on. And Eve took the fruit, gave it to Adam, and it says, and he did eat. Now, everybody look at me. The fall didn't happen when Eve ate. The fall happened when Adam ate. Because the Bible says that Eve was deceived. But Adam understood and he made a choice. And I'm going to say that again. The Bible says that Eve was deceived. The enemy deceived her. Adam knew clearly they shouldn't have done it, and he made a choice, and he chose. And after the fall, God came and said, Adam, where are you? The name Adam means man. God was coming on the scene, and he was saying, man, where are you? And I think God is saying that to all of the earth right now, if you want to know the truth. He's crying out from heaven saying, men, where are you? And what Adam should have done in that moment was said, no, we're not going to eat this fruit. And Satan, get the heck out of the garden. Adam should have been the no for his family. But the Bible says instead he listened to the voice of his wife, and the consequences we read about in the Bible, and we see all around us. Men, look at me. Will you be the no when your family needs it? Will you say no when your family needs it? See, we all know men are supposed to be the protector in the sense of physically. God made us physically stronger. When it talks about wives being the weaker vessel, it means physically weaker, that men are created physically, biologically stronger. And we all know that we're taught, like Jesus died for the church, men are supposed to lay down their lives and be willing to die for their wife. And we get taught in church all the time that we all need to take a bullet for our wife. And I believe all that. Men should be the first into battle. If you hear a noise downstairs or you hear a noise in another part of the house, it should be the man that goes out and deals with that. And we hear those stories all the time. You don't send your wife out to deal with it. You go deal with that. You go confront that and be the man of your house on a physical level to protect your house. And God gave you physical strength, by the way, not to be abusive, but to protect. And some men take their physical dominance and they abuse women, and that's because they're just weak, cowardly jerks, really. But God gave you that physical strength to be the protector, the physical protector of the home. But he gave you the role of protector in far broader ways than that. And I'll give you some bullet points like I did on providing. There are far more spectrum of ways that you're supposed to be the provider, men. Be the provider spiritually. If you're taking notes, you're jotting these down. Be the provider spiritually. Pray over your wife. Pray over your kids. Do spiritual warfare over your kids. Get specific prayer requests from, say, honey, is there anything you need to pray about? Kids, is there anything you need me to pray about? Get specific prayer requests and lead them spiritually. Have prayer times. Have times where you talk about God. Be the spiritual leader and protector of your home when the enemy tries to attack. When beliefs or information are trying to get to your wife and your family and your kids, it's your job to protect them from wrong beliefs. When you see things that your kids are watching, whether it's on TV, social media, it doesn't matter what it is. When you see them doing things and you see information, even from school, you see information and belief systems that are coming into their life, it's your job to protect their heart and mind from wrong beliefs and wrong information. When you hear them say something or think something that's wrong, say, honey, that's not right. That's not God's truth. That's not the principle of the Bible. Every wrong thing your kids will ever do will be based on a wrong belief. So when wrong beliefs come into their life, when wrong beliefs come into their heart, that's going to produce wrong actions. And as much as you protect them physically, you're even more so supposed to guard your family spiritually. So protect them. Watch what they're watching. Watch what they're listening to. Watch the people they're hanging around. There are million ways that the enemy tries to get into them. And I'll say this, you can't hide them from everything, okay? And I know that, and I'm a realist about this. I'm not religious about it. You can't protect them from everything that's going on in the world. So when you see it, talk to them about it. Teach your kids to discern what's God and what's not God. Show them in that moment. Take every moment that you see as a learning opportunity. And I'll say something to you. The view you give them of God, the ability you give them when they get on their own to discern what's God and what's not, this is a truth and this is not a truth because you've told them all along the way, will be the most important thing you give them. You giving them the discernment to know truth and not truth is the greatest gift you'll ever give them. Giving them a right view of God, giving them right beliefs, and protecting their heart. Protecting their heart and their mind is every bit, if not more important than protecting their body. And sometimes we don't do that. And guys, say it again, be the no your kids need. When you see something they're doing that's messing up their head and they're thinking, be the no they need. Be willing to say no. Adam didn't say no. Be the no your family needs to protect your family, not just physically, but protect their spirit from the things. The enemy is mean, guys. I feel the Lord on this. Just I'm preach just a minute. The enemy's ruthless. He wants to destroy your kids. He wants to destroy your family. He wants to destroy your marriage. He wants to destroy your wife. He wants to destroy you. And there are things that a man is going to see because of the grace on his life as the head of the home that none of the other ones may not see. But you're going to see it. And when you see that something's clearly wrong and it's coming in to destroy your home, stand up and say no. Be the no your family needs. Be willing to say no like Adam didn't do. Stand up and protect your family. Now go deeper. When you see friends, I'm talking specifically about your kids, but it's true in general. When you see friends coming into your kids' lives and you know they're the wrong type of kids, say no, honey, that's not the kind of friend you're going to have in your life. That person's a problem. Whoever has relational access to your children is the most important thing. There's nothing that'll do more harm to your kids and whoever has relational access. This is something you have to go to war over. You have to go to battle over who their friends are. And when you see that and you see that it's going to be a problem, this person will do the most harm to your boy or to your girl than anything else. And I'll tell you, something's coming up my spirit, so we'll kind of pause in there. I'll tell you who does more harm than anyone else. It's not lost people, it's fake Christians. It's Christians who aren't really living the life because they come around saying they're a Christian, but they're living like the world, and they're teaching your kids that you don't have to be a real Christian to call yourself a Christian. And so these fake Christians come into the situation, they come into your kid's life, and it's like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I do, XYZ, ABCD, all the above. And they're coming in and they're polluting and diluting the belief system of your kids. So the last thing you want is fake Christians coming in, hanging around your kids. Protect your kids. When you see people, when you see friends and relationships, whether they're adults or kids, coming around your kids or your family that are going to cause problem with your family, be the no. Guys, be the no your family needs. Protect their heart spiritually, but protect them from people. I'm going to go deeper into this. Protect your kids from the opposite sex. You know your young boy, teenagers and boys and girls, they don't understand the opposite sex. Shoot, we're older and we have trouble understanding the opposite sex after all the years that we've lived, right? When you're 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, you're not understanding the opposite sex. That boy of yours, he doesn't understand that there are women out there that don't have good motives and they don't have his best interests at heart. Proverbs 5 talks about it clearly about this woman. It says her lips drip smooth like honey. And she's got smooth speech and her lips are like honey. It says, but in the end, she's bitter and she takes you to the grave. I'm going to say that again. She talks smooth and she looks great. Basically, what he's saying is, this is my paraphrase. He said, I know she looks good. I know she talks good. I know she feels good. I know she tastes good. But son, this is what you tell your son. But son, let me tell you something. That girl is trouble. And some of you moms know this even better than your dads. You can spot those problem girls. And when that girl shows up, yeah, she may look good. She may be hot and she may be smooth and she may have all these things that look good to you now. But that girl's going to destroy you, son. She's going to take you, she's going to kill you. That's what Solomon was saying. She's going to take you to the grave. And in the end, in Proverbs 5, it says that this bad woman, this kind of woman, this is what she'll do. Said, son, this is Solomon talking in Proverbs 5 to his son. She'll take your honor. This is what the wrong woman will do. She'll take your honor. She'll take your dignity. She'll take your wealth. She'll take your work. Oh, she may look good, son. I know at 15 your hormones are going crazy and your testosterone's going crazy, and I know she's hot and she looks good. But let me tell you something, son. That girl, she may feel good in the moment. She's going to destroy your life, and she's going to take you to the grave. She's going to take your dignity. She's going to take your honor, and she's going to end up taking your wealth, all because of the lust of your flesh. Now, you get that under control, and you tell him, you get that under control, and we're going to find you a good girl. We're going to find you a girl that loves the Lord and has got character and all those things. Be the no he needs, dads. When he needs someone to tell him no, that's going to destroy you. I tell you, this happened to me with my grandma. I was at church one time, and my grandma was the most godly lady, and this girl was coming to church, and I was kind of starting to hang around her, and she caught me one day at her house, and she said, I'm going to tell you something, Ricky. And that's what they called me when I was young. I'm going to tell you something, Ricky. That's not the kind of girl I think you need to be with. And she sat me down and had a talk with me, and it was one of the best things that ever happened. And I'm going to tell you something. When they don't have a clue what they're getting involved with, sit down with them and say no. Be the no your family needs. Be the no to protect them from not just the wrong friends, but the wrong opposite sex. We also know that young girls, teenage girls, they don't understand how young boys are. They don't have a clue how sex crazed and testosterone driven young teenage boys are. Sit down with them and tell them, honey, because these young girls are thinking about romance and love and crush, and their emotions are going crazy and their emotions are all hyper, and they have no idea of all the things that are going on in that young teenage boy's head. Sit down with them and protect them. Protect your kids from the wrong person of the opposite sex. And when you see her with that boy, that's bad news, that has the potential to devastate her life or alter the very course of her life when mistakes happen and they end up having sex and she gets pregnant or whatever happens or her heart gets damaged. Sit down with her and protect her from the wrong boy who's bad news, who's trouble. And you know it. For that matter, protect your wife, fellas. When you see someone who's got bad motives and how they're acting around your wife, and you see it and you know it, say, honey, I'm going to tell you something. That guy doesn't have pure motives. Be the no. Be the no that they need in these situations. Be the no that your family needs when it comes to money. You know when you need to make good financial decisions or when you're making bad financial decisions. You know when it's off. You know when the kids and all the things that they're doing are destroying your budget and messing up the money. There's a time for you to come in and say no when it comes to finances, so your family's finances are not destroyed. Be someone who sets a budget. Be someone who's the steward of you're the provider, leader, protector, fellas. Be the one who protects the family from financial bad decisions and destruction. Be a man who says we're going to build wealth and we're going to build generational wealth. And to do that, we're going to have to make good decisions. Be the no they need. Be not just the protector of their heart or the protector of their relationships with people in all ways. Be the protector of the family's finances. Don't allow something that's a poor decision. And sometimes the guy's the one that makes a poor decision. I get that, I hear ladies screaming at me in my head. You don't have any idea. My husband's one. I know that. But I'm challenging the men to be the one that says, no, we need to do this because we need to stick to the plan and we need to accomplish our goals. And this is where we're headed. I'm going to talk personally with you for a minute. And then I want to talk about procreation, talk about the sex drive, and bring this home at the end. Be someone, man, I'm going to get real personal with you about you and your wives as I transition to more personal stuff. And if you have kids that happen to be in the car watching the video or whatever, now might be the time that your antenna comes up and you be a little more sensitive, okay? Just to give you a heads up. Protect your wife's emotions. Be a student of your wife. Learn what she loves and learn what hurts her and listen to her and do the things she loves and don't do the things that hurt her. Don't be someone who scars her or scars her heart. And everybody's different, and only you know what she loves, what her likes and dislikes are, what her desires are. But be a student of her. Know her, and know what she loves, and protect her heart. And don't do things that scar her heart. Protect her emotions. Even deeper as we transition to sex. Don't damage her sexually. Protect her when it comes to your sexuality. I'm going to give you a specific example of this. I've had men in counseling that have tried to include things like porn in their marriage and in the relationship with their wife. Let me tell you something, men. Don't ever do anything that violates the conscience of your wife. Guard and protect the sexual relationship with your wife. It's between you and your wife alone. It shouldn't be between you and your buddies. It shouldn't be between you and some porn stuff. It shouldn't be any of this other stuff intruding in there. It should be only you two. And you guard that and you protect that. Don't ever force or badger her to do something that violates her conscience. You protect that relationship and romance her and love her and protect her conscience. Don't violate her emotionally. Don't ever do anything that would not be protective of her sexually. I'm going to give you a story, and this is a strong story on the topic of protecting. And it was a story of a pastor who was preaching. I can't remember what book I read this in. He was preaching out in his town, and I don't know what the topic was, but someone came and tried to set fire to his car. And he upset people for whatever reason. And when they set fire to his car, they were trying to make the car explode. They were trying to harm him. When the fire department and the police officers, they came to the house, they got it under control. He got his kids out of the house. He got them protected. He made sure they were safe. And the police officer said, I don't know who you've upset, but somebody was trying to hurt you here tonight. And in that moment, he realized the danger that his family was in, and he actually moved and took them to another town where he was pastor of another church because he was going to protect his home. But in that moment, his mentor, the guy who discipled him, was his spiritual father, called him and he said, man, I'm glad you're okay. I would not have done this. This is a little too strong for me in that situation, but it makes the point I'm making tonight. He said, man, I'm so thankful you're safe. I'm thankful you got your family safe. I'm thankful they got the fire under control. And he said this to him, man to man. He said, I want you to know something, though. If you can't protect your family, you can't lead the church. And when I read that in that book, I went, wow, that is strong. If you can't protect your family and you can't lead your family, you can't lead and protect the church. Because the reality is, if you want to be in leadership in a church, man, if you want to be elders, if you want to be leaders in the church, you lead the church the way you lead your home. It's a perfect parallel. I covered that in a previous message. And how you protect your family is how you'll protect the church. And if you don't protect your family spiritually, the point is accurate. Although I wouldn't have said it in that specific situation because that's a little bit strong then. But if you don't protect your family spiritually, if you don't protect your family relationally, if you don't protect your family emotionally, you're not going to protect the church strong either. It is a vital drive in men. It is a vital reality in men to be the protector of the home. Men, be the no. I'll leave it at this. Be the no that your family needs when a no is necessary, so you protect them from all these things in the world that are trying to harm them. And let's take on the biggie, okay? Let's transition to sex drive, the procreation. This is the number one biological and still drive in men. There may be exceptions to this, but in general, this is the number one drive that just weighs on men, psychologically, biologically. I'm going to make a few points, and I'm going to be very open here. Once again, I'm going to be very holy about it, but I'm going to be very honest about it. I want to say something from men. We didn't ask for this. Women get very frustrated at us because of the sex drive, the nature of men. We did not ask. We did not get a vote in how God made us, just like you did not get a vote in how God made you. You didn't get a vote and the hormones that go on you and the estrogen levels and the emotions and the cycles. You didn't get a vote in any of that, ladies. We don't get a vote in how we were made either. God made us how he saw fit, and we didn't ask to be made so visual. We did not ask to be made visual. We didn't ask for that. We didn't ask for visual things to trigger us like they do. We did not ask for testosterone to be coursing through our veins with massive amounts that drive us crazy with this drive. We did not ask for that. We did not ask for the chemicals that get released in our brain that go on during sex and when visual. We did not ask for these chemicals. God made our brain the way he made our brain. We did not ask for our body. Some of you may not know that I'm just scratching the surface, but the reality is men produce about 1,000 to 1,500 sperm cells every time our heart beats. Did you know that? Let me give that stat again. Men produce 1,000 to 1,500 sperm cells every time our heart beats. That's how fast. We did not ask. Well, we did. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be very vulnerable and very honest as I talk through this. If we could, we would want some of this to go away. We would want this to be lifted off of us and not be this way because it's another burden. Everything I'm teaching on tonight is a burden to provide, to protect, and to procreate. This sex drive that God put in us that just drives us and pushes it. We wish it would just go away and we could relax. We didn't ask for it. Is it fair for you to ask us to have self-control? Absolutely. I've heard many women say this. The number one attractive attribute in a man that they love is when a man is self-controlled, that he's not unrestrained. And every man should be controlled with this. It's not something that should be out of control. We need to have it disciplined. We need to have it controlled. We need to have it under the God principles that we know the Bible speaks of. But just like I will tell men that they need to have this under control and they need to use it in a godly way, it's like fire. Fire's great in a fireplace. That's where it's supposed to be in marriage. Sex is supposed to be in marriage. It's wonderful. You set a fire in the middle of the living room and you just let it go unrestrained, it'll burn down your house. That's the way sex is. Sex is great when it's in the place it's supposed to be. Sex messes up everyone's life when it gets out of the place it's supposed to be. But just like I would tell men that they need to be controlled with this and they need to do it godly, I would tell ladies this: don't shame men for being how God created them to be. Even godly good men are going to have this overwhelming sex drive. They're not going to be able to undo it. They're not going to be able to recreate themselves. And sometimes I feel like women are mocking men, or shaming men, or guilting men for being how God created them to be. I would tell men, don't shame or guilt women for being how they're created to be. Don't shame men for being how God created them to be. It is absolutely true that the enemy in the world has perverted sex into all kinds of ridiculous, wrong things. But it's also true that even in its God-created place, it's going to be the dominant, one of the biggest dominant factors in the biological, psychological drive of men. That's why Paul said in 1 Corinthians 6:16, I'm going to give you some things that I don't think you've ever heard before. I'm about to share some things with you that I don't think many people, they rarely would ever get taught in church for sure, but I don't think many people have ever heard what I'm about to say. Okay? This is why Paul said in 1 Corinthians 6:16 that when two people sleep together or have sex together, when intercourse together, and he used the example of when you sleep with a harlot, you become one flesh with her. When two people have sex, they become one. Everybody look at me. The purpose of sex, this is going to go counter to what you've heard in church most of your life. The purpose of sex is not to have children. Okay? That's one of the realities of sex, obviously. But the purpose of sex is to make two people one. That's the purpose. The purpose of sex, the way God designed sex between male and female, man and woman, is to make two people one. And the two become one flesh. I have wrestled for years with how to get kids, and I had books by Josh McDowell on why wait till you get married to have sex, and you hear people talk about sex is for marriage, and you hear that in church all the time, okay, about sacredness and sex. And I have wrestled with how to get people to live holy when it comes to their sexuality my whole life, because 99% of the world doesn't, and I'm not naive, and I know that. And I've learned this, that rules don't work. Okay, just throwing down a Bible verse and saying thou shalt not usually doesn't work. Okay, I wish it did. For some people it did, but the old formula, rules without relationship equals rebellion. So I'm going to take another approach tonight as I talk about this, and I want to give you biological realities. These are physical, scientific, biological realities for how God designed sex to work to make you one. You cannot have sex with someone and not become one with them, because God designed us biologically to cause that to happen. When you have sex with someone, and this doesn't happen when you kiss someone, this doesn't happen when you're holding hands, this doesn't happen when you're affectionate with someone. We're talking about actually having sex with someone. But when you have sex with someone, there are bonding forces that happen in your physical body. There are biological bonding forces that get released in your human body. I want to talk about them for just a few minutes and I'll bring this to a close. The number one thing that happens in your body is when you have sex with someone, oxytocin, a chemical called oxytocin, it's a hormone, floods your bloodstream. And oxytocin, when it floods your bloodstream, is the chemical that causes you to bond with another person. When a mother is nursing her baby, when a mother is nursing her newborn baby, her body floods with oxytocin. And so as she's nursing the baby and as the baby is drinking the milk from the mother, The mother is supernaturally bonding with the baby, and the baby is bonding with the mother. Even though the baby is too little to psychologically understand anything, oxytocin is causing the baby and the mother to bond by a biological reality. When you have sex with someone, God made your body so that it floods your bloodstream with oxytocin. Why did God do that? So you'd become one and bonded to the person you have sex with. That's why you're only supposed to have sex with the person you're married to. Because when you have sex with someone, oxytocin floods your bloodstream. This is God's bonding element, and it causes you to be bonded in a way that is supernatural. So when the Bible says you become one with the person you have sex with, it's not just some mystical theological thing. God created your body to bond with that person, and he released chemicals in them. Let me say it this way. You can't just hook up with somebody. That's not just a booty call, folks. You are becoming one with them. It's a covenant. And the reality is there are chemicals that happen. Let me give you another one. The first one's oxytocin. The second one is dopamine. When you have sex with someone, massive amounts of dopamine flood your brain. It's a neurotransmitter. And this particular neurotransmitter causes you to be hyper focused. When you have sex with someone, your focus level goes up massive exponentially. And that focus, you get so focused on the other person that you literally have blocked out everything around you, everything even right around you, all the noise, all the things that are going on, it's gone, because dopamine makes you so focused and gives you such a rush and such an intensity. And in that moment, not only oxytocin, but dopamine bonds you to the person that you're having sex with. You can't have sex with someone and not become one with them because of what chemically happens in your body. I'm going to tell you another interesting thing about dopamine. I'm going to ask you to give me just a little bit more time tonight because I think this is important and I don't want to rush it. Dopamine is a chemical and a neurotransmitter that changes your perception. It changes the very perception of the person that you're having sex with. It literally makes you think. You can go study this. It makes you look at the person you're having sex with totally different. They're more beautiful. They're more wonderful. They're stronger. They're amazing. Dopamine is like God's marriage glasses to make you look at your spouse with wonder and beauty. It's like every time you have sex, your spouse gets stronger, more beautiful, and more wonderful. I used to say it this way: sex blinds you. And if you're going to be married to somebody for 30 or 40 or 50 years, you're going to have to be about half blind. Can I have an amen on that? Because some of the stuff's going to drive you crazy. And to get through 40 or 50 years, you're going to be about half blind. You're going to have to think your spouse is more wonderful than they are. What did God give us to do that? He gave us sex and dopamine. It bonds you with one another and it changes your perception. The pathways in your brain change. Every time you have sex, neural pathways in the very brain cells of your brain adapt and attach to the person you're having sex with. The very brain neural pathways change when you have sex and you adapt and attach to the very person that you're having sex with. There are chemicals that get released in your body. There are chemicals that happens every time you have sex with someone. There are certain chemicals, proteins, and I'm going to leave it here. There are so much more proteins that get released in your body that cause reactions in your body. Everybody look at me. I said all that to say this on a physical level. You can't have sex with someone and not become one with them. Oh, you may think you're a player, you're a dog, and you go out there and mess around, do what you want. No, and you may try to disconnect your heart and your mind and not get attached emotionally. You can't change the physical. I wish I could get all up in the camera. If there's any young men listening to this and you're not married, you can't change how God created your body. And when you hook up with somebody, when you have sex with somebody, there is oxytocin and dopamine and chemicals and brain cells, and everything in you bonds to that person because God created it that way. Why did God create it that way? Because he created this to be in marriage so that you are supposed to be bonded with someone. I remember Patricia Heaton, who was the Everybody Loves Raymond wife on Everybody Loves Raymond. She got through with the series. She was going back home, not going to be working anymore, and she didn't feel connected to her husband. It's like she'd been working so long, she didn't feel connected. She went to the doctor and said, I don't know what to do. And this why I heard her do this on an interview, her say this. And the doctor, who was very wise, said, well, all you need to do is start having more sex with your husband. And ladies, the men did not pay me to give this advice. Because when you have more sex with your husband, you will get rebonded to your husband. Now, the doctor probably knew that oxytocin and dopamine and all these things would happen, but it's a truth. things physically, biologically happen in your body to bind you as one with the person that you have sex with. Wait till you're with the person you're married to. It's impossible. It's impossible to have sex with someone and not become one with them. Please lock it down, fellas. I feel a pause here. You're just going to give me a little more time tonight because I felt paused by the Spirit. Fellas, lock that stuff down. It's strong. I know the sex drive is strong. Lock that down because you can't do that and not become one. Save it for your wife because there you're supposed to be one with them. Let's go on to the soul. Another thing oxytocin does when it gets released in you and you can't change it or you can't fight it is it causes you to reveal your secrets. Isn't that amazing? So every time, this is why men work the way they work, by the way. It unlocks our emotions, okay? And so every time you have sex with someone and oxytocin gets released, it causes you to trust whoever you're having sex with, because by the way, you're supposed to only have sex with your wife who you trust. So when oxytocin gets released in your body, it causes this supernatural trust to develop, and it causes you to talk openly to whoever you just had sex with, and it opens up your soul. You don't just become one in body, you become one in their soul. And the reality is that that's why guys always want to talk after they have sex. The bond is formed with these chemicals. The trust is formed with these chemicals. And now guys spill their secrets. It happened with Samson and Delilah. That's what Samson and Delilah, that's what Delilah did, make Samson reveal his secrets. The secrets of his heart came out after he had sex because that's what unlocks our emotions. And you can't have sex without oxytocin, and it will cause you to supernaturally say things to the person you have sex with that you would never say to anyone else. This is why spies have sex with people during war to find the secrets of war. This goes on in every area of life. This is why prostitutes even know a lot of information that no one else knows, because it's a biological reality that happens when you have sex, and oxytocin unlocks your trust. It unlocks you. It causes a oneness of heart and soul. And lastly, I'll get into this. Any two people that have sex are activating these chemicals. I want to talk to you about sex and spirituality. And this is going to shock you, okay? The level at which I'm going to say this. But sex is spiritual. It's not just physical. Sex unlocks your spirit. And I'm going to say that again. Sex unlocks your spirit. Sex is an act of worship. Let's take the demonic angle, okay? Pagan religions and demonic religions have known there's a connection between sex and the spiritual dimension for thousands of years. That's why in all the ancient pagan rituals or even modern satanic rituals, there are sex acts. There are sexual acts that go on in these pagan demonic rituals because it unlocks your spirit to dimensions of the spirit realm. That's the bad way this gets used in a demonic ritualistic sense. And everybody look at me. The godly reason that God created us so that when we have sex, I've almost got brokenness coming up in my spirit because this is so holy and so sacred, and so few people understand what's happening when they're having sex with one another. When you have sex with someone, it unlocks something in your spirit. There's a spiritual unlocking and a spiritual release. And the purpose of that is not so these pagan rituals can go off into their bizarre spiritual activity. It's so the two people that are having sex with one another, their spirits connect with one another. Song of Solomon talks about this in chapter 8. It's like a flame of fire. And there's a spiritual unlocking and a spiritual release. It's why the old ancient Anglican wedding ceremony, it used to say this: for better or worse, richer for poor, sickness and health. And I give my body to you as an act of worship. And with my body, I think it said this: with my body, I thee worship. Because sex is an act of worship. There's a holiness to it. There's a sacredness to it. And it opens you up to the spirit realm. And it connects you physically with oxytocin. It connects your heart as it causes you to trust. But it also unlocks your spirit. And it connects you with one another on a deep, deep level spiritually. And you can't change that. There's nothing you can do about that. That's why the Bible says the marriage bed is holy, it's sacred, and it's undefiled. It's not talking about the mattress. The word for bed there is the Greek word coitus. It's not talking about the mattress and the box springs is holy. It's talking about the act is holy. I'm going to go deep with you here, and I want you to hear this with spiritual ears, not with fleshly ears, what I'm about to say. I'm not trying to be provocative. I'm trying to give you truths of God that rarely get shared so that we understand the deeper spiritual reality of what God created. I think God's up in heaven looking at, I created this so clear and it's almost so blunt. How can you not see how I designed this stuff to work so that it reveals what I'm doing? But sex, the way God designed male and female sexuality, is how we make covenant. God's two things that cause covenant to be made are this: that covenant you had to pass between two pieces of flesh, between the two pieces of flesh, and there had to be the shedding of blood. God did it with Abraham. He had an ox killed, and this bull ox was killed and separated. And Abraham and God walked between the two pieces of flesh, and there was shedding of blood. And they did those two things, and they made covenant together. And Abram became Abraham because they passed between the pieces of flesh, the sides of flesh, and there was the shedding of blood. This is why Jesus, when he made a covenant with God, he had to be in the middle. Come on, see it with spiritual eyes. Jesus had to be in the middle between two pieces of flesh, the two people on the other crosses. He had to be in the middle because to make a covenant with God required you pass between the sides of flesh, be between two sides of flesh, and the shedding of blood. That's why God designed female and male sexuality the way he designed it, so that if two people were virgins, when they get married and they have sex for the first time, the act of sex does those two demands of covenant: the passing between the sides of flesh and the shedding of blood. People have wondered forever, what is the medical reason for the hymen? Why would God create the hymen? It's not medical, it's theological. The reason God designed male and female that way, and if we would understand, and I'm not trying to be, again, provocative or crude, I'm trying to show you a picture of God, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. It's the mystery. It's like in creation. Something's coming up in my spirit. It's like in creation. We were originally in God, and then God took us out of himself. We were in God. God took us out of himself. He created us. Then when we get saved, God is in us. We were in God, and in the fullness of everything coming full circle, now God he's in us. This is the way it was with Adam and Eve. There was only Adam, and God took Eve out of Adam. And then when Adam and Eve came together in union for the first time, Eve was in Adam, and now Adam is in Eve. It's a mystery of the fullness of the cycle. And God created this so directly, so clearly, so bluntly, and it's not things you can ever normally say in a typical church meeting, but the power of the mystery of sex. And everybody look at me, I said all of those things that are so explicit and real, but I wanted to say them in a holy way so that you can understand this is God's thing, and it's sacred, and it's holy, and he created physical chemicals, and he created those chemicals to bond you, and he created it so that it unlocks your spirit. And I'm going to say this as I close, and thank you for your patience, but I think this was important material, and I thought maybe I could get it in an hour, but it took a few more minutes. Ladies, I'm going to say this to you, okay? Understand that behind the physical desire is a man who looks at sex from an emotional perspective. Most women, I'm going to give this a little bit to help encourage the women to understand men. Most women don't understand that it's not just a physical drive. This is how men connect emotionally, and it unlocks their emotions. For men, this is the way we unlock our emotions. And it does things for them on a deep level that I don't think women understand, because women more often than not think, oh, he just wants to have sex. It's a physical thing and blah, blah, blah. No, it's a very deep emotional thing that goes on with it. And if I could say it this way and you could hear this, when you have sex with your husband, you're not just touching his body, you're touching his heart. You're touching his soul. I'm going to say that again. You're touching his soul. I'm going to give you three things that does, and it'll take short, just a few seconds. It gives him comfort. When a man is feeling down, he will come and want to have sex at the oddest times. Great story in a book, Intimate Issues, is a man's mom died, and the man he couldn't process it. He was unable to cry. It went on day after day, week after week, and he was unable to deal with his emotions. He comes to his wife and he said, "Honey, would you please make love to me?" And she's like, "Why do you want to? I mean, your mom just died. This is weird that you want to make love." When men feel devastated on the inside, they will intuitively come to you and want to have sex for comfort. So the two couple in the book, it's a great story if you read, a great book, by the way, Intimate Issues, if you read it. When they had sex, immediately after they made love, he broke. and he just started weeping, and he rolled over there and he just started sobbing in the bed. This will happen with men when they get fired and they're down. This will happen with men when someone close to them dies. This will happen with any way when a man feels he needs comfort. How a man, it's emotional, ladies, and you're emotional creatures. And I'm trying to let you know that there are emotional components to it. When a man is down and he's depressed, he will, when he wants comfort, the way he's wired, he will want to have sex, and it will bring comfort. It salves his, it connects him. Let me use the word connection. It makes him whole. It salves the loneliness that he feels inside of him. He feels alone. He doesn't know how to process the inadequacy. And we're not as relational. We don't know how to develop relationships as much. This is how he shows, and this is how he feels love. It connects him with you. It comforts him. And the last thing, it gives him confidence. There's a power you have when it comes to sex. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to be very vulnerable. You can either make him feel like he can conquer the world, or you will destroy the very core of his being. That's how personal this is. And I've counseled, I want to say hundreds, but I would be conservative and say dozens and dozens of couples. And I've watched this go on where couples will go on for long, long, long periods of time and they're not having sex with one another. And I watch the man's soul. And I know there's another side to that story. I know he needs to learn how to love. He needs to learn how to be romantic. I know that. I'll talk about that another time. But you have the power, ladies, to make him feel like he can conquer the world, or you have the power to destroy his soul. It's not just that he's not getting a physical need met. It's affecting the very core. Come on, guys, give me an amen if you know what I'm saying is right. And all the guys out there are cheering me. There's a power to cause the well-being of his soul on a deep level to feel whole. And I know I'm going to say this. This is a very strong thing I'm going to say right now. Men feel rejected at this level, at a level that it does something to them in a deep way. And I'm going to say this. Men would rather cut the hedges in freezing rain than be rejected in this area. And when you see a husband who'd rather be anywhere else in the world but come home, it's probably because he's either being criticized as a provider or he's being rejected in this area. And if he's being rejected in this area of the sexual relationship, he would rather be anywhere else in the world that he doesn't feel rejection. He would rather be playing golf. He would rather be at work. He would rather be hanging out with his buddies. He would rather be anywhere, because this is so, on one hand, you can make him confident enough that he thinks he can take on an army. And on the, you have that power, ladies. You have the power to unlock his emotions. You have the power to give him confidence. You have the power to give him a wholeness. And it happens in this area, or you have the power to destroy him. I'm going to read this quote and then I'm going to pray. A man said this, and I hope this is ministered to you now, because I really put in a lot of work on this one. I go out into the world. I fight every day. It's very lonely. A man really does feel isolated, even with his wife sometimes. But in making love, there is no other person in the world that you can be completely with and in completion with and vulnerable with and totally accepted and not judged by. It's a solace, and it makes me complete. It brings a completion that goes very deep in my heart. Sex touches his heart, ladies. It doesn't just touch his body. It's emotional. It's how he connects and unlocks with his emotions, and it salves his loneliness. It gives him strength and well-being. It gives him confidence. It eases his pain when he's hurt. It brings him comfort. It gives one person who can be totally vulnerable and complete with, and it makes him whole. He can face the world better, and his identity is whole with that being there. The Lord reminded me of a story. I'm going to shut off my light and my notebook. I've counseled lots of couples, and I said this a while ago. I've said something to several couples, and every time I've said, I wasn't going to say this tonight. Some of you, this may frustrate, I hope this doesn't frustrate you that I say this. But every time I've said this to a couple, to the wife, in the marriage counseling situation, the husband, he doesn't say it in front of the wife, but he comes up to me after it was over and he says, man, just between you and me, thank you for saying that. And he said, they always say this, I wish every woman and man in the world could hear that. They say, I wish every woman and man in the world could hear that. And here's what I say. Here's what I say in that moment when we talk about the issues of marriage, and one of them being sex in the marriage. and they're struggling with their sexual relationship. And I say this: if you have a man and he's a good man, I'm not talking about jerks and dogs and players and out running around doing stuff. If you have a man, ladies, who's a godly man, and he's faithful and he's loyal and he's a worker and he's providing and he's a good dad and he's doing everything that he knows to do, and you know he's never going to cheat, he's not going to commit adultery. I hope in many of these cases they waited till they got married to have sex, and they're faithful and loyal and he's a good man. Everybody look at me. If ladies, if you get a man like that, and all the guys better send me $20 after I say this, if you find a man that's good and godly and loyal and loving and a good dad and a provider and all the things that men are, reward him. Reward him. And the number one way you can reward him is in the sexual relationship in your marriage. There's nothing you will do that will hit his heart. And you know I'm being honest. Most preachers won't come out and say this, but I'm not most preachers. You know I'm being honest. The number one way you will reward his heart, that you will comfort his soul, that you will bring completion and confidence to his being, there's nothing you will do for him in most cases that will be more important than that. There are other things that are very important, but nothing will be more important than that. Let me pray and let's wrap this one up. Father, I love you. Father, I pray that this helps people. I know this was deep topic, big topics. And as I deal with 12 things to be as a man, and I talked about the spiritual things, and I talked about the family things. Today I went deep into the heart of men, that men are providers, protectors, and they're procreators at our core of our being because of how you created us. And I pray that men would be providers, that men would be protectors and say the no their family needs, and that men would understand you can't have sex with someone and not become one because of the biological, chemical, physical, and spiritual reactions that take place in our body. And I pray that women would understand that there's an emotional component to us. We're deeper than they think. As providers, we feel it deeply. Be sensitive with us about that when you criticize us. As protectors and as beings that are very sexually driven, understand the power you have, ladies, to complete us, make us whole, comfort us, and give us confidence. And God, I pray that this helps a generation that is so messed up in these areas. And I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Amen.